Hi everyone, welcome to the Erudite Artist YouTube channel. My name is Janice and I'm here to show you how I created this mixed media design on my BDJ 2020 Power Planner. This is for one of my March weekly spreads. I'll be using Stamperia's Cosmos collection. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to take out the pages that I'm going to be designing. So this is, I think, the third week of the March weekly spreads. The next thing I'm going to do is just put some gesso on it. This is clear texture gesso. And I'm just using my palette knife to evenly spread the gesso on my page. That way later on when I paint on it, it's not gonna ruin the paper. Now just to make sure that all the gesso is spread out evenly, I'm using my finger to kind of smear off any hard edges left by the palette knife. And then I'm just going to use my heat gun to dry off the areas quicker. Then I'm taking my Stamperia stencil. This is one of the thin stencils which I just discovered is actually washable. And I'm taking some modeling paste and just spreading it on my page on the areas that I want to have textures on. Now if you notice the difference, I left the left page a lot more sparse. I didn't decorate it as much as I did on the right side because later on I want to write something on the blank areas that I left. And then I'm going to use some of my paints. This is just watercolor. I'm using M-Gram. And I'm using, I think, cerulean blue and aquamarine. So I'm playing around with the lightness and darkness of my watercolors. So some areas are darker compared to the other areas, just to give it a very dreamy effect. Now the advantage of using a water brush is that I already loaded it with water, so I don't need to rinse my brush at all. All I have to do is kind of just wipe off any of the excess paint on it and then just let the water run through on the areas that I want to lighten. As you can see, I'm just pulling a little bit of the paint from the areas that are already painted. Now I know you noticed that I use a flat brush for this project, but you don't necessarily have to use one. I just use this because it's a lot easier to spread the paint. But if you want to do this on your own, you can go for any round brush that you have at hand, because I know that's what's mostly common that we have at our homes. Just make sure to go for about brushes number 8 and up. You can also go for smaller brushes, but it will consume a lot more time compared to using larger ones. And I'm just drying it off once again with my heat gun. That way we can work on this a lot faster. Now I'm going to be taking some of my stamps from Stamperia. This is from, I think, the Imagine collection. And just randomly stamping in areas that I want to put it. Now that I'm happy with my layout, I'm going to take some of my glitter acrylics to further embellish the background of my layout. So for this part, I'm simply using my fingers to smear the acrylic in random places that I wanted to accentuate. But if you want to use a brush, that's perfectly fine also. Just make sure that you rinse off the brush once you're done, because the acrylic is very sticky, so it might ruin the brush if you don't clean it out as soon as you can. So I'll only be using 2 colors of glitter acrylics. The first one I used is the blue one, and then this one is just the white. And I'm going to smear this the same way as I did previously, only I have more areas that I covered compared to the blue acrylic. So once I'm happy with how it looks like, I'm going to wait for this to dry off once again, and then I'm going to proceed to layer my papers. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm using the Stamperia Cosmos collection, and I love the galaxy feel of this collection, and I love playing around with the papers that I cut out. There are about 4 pages in this collection that you can cut out, so I'm just taking them all out, and then once I'm finished cutting all the pieces here, I'm going to start layering it on the background. So the first thing that I did is glue in this dainty paper cutout. I cut it in half actually, so I can use the other half on the left side. And I also used some of this vellum paper. just to add in a little bit of a effect on the background. And then I'm playing around with layering the pieces that I cut up earlier. I also saved off some of the edges of the paper cutouts. I'm turning it into these strips that I can use to add in some more embellishments to my layout. My process is actually very simple, and in some ways I can just repeat the process all over and over again, but the thing that takes time with it is thinking about how you can make your layout very cohesive and everything is placed just right, that it looks very pleasant when you see the overall output of the project. Now to add in some more body to the layout, you don't have to do this by the way. I use some foam sheets to kind of create more body and depth dimensions to my layout. Okay, so I have to warn you that when you do use foam sheets on this project, your planners and your journals will tend to be a lot chunky. So if you don't want that to happen, you can skip using any foam sheets or double-sided foam tape and just stick with layering them on top of each other, and that's totally fine. So just to give the layout a finished look, I'm taking some of my metallic paints and just using it to splatter on some white and blue metallics, just to add in a little bit of that galaxy feel to it. I finished with the right side of my layout of my spread, but I'm not sure yet if I'm going to add in a little bit more on that side, but for now I'm going to move on to the left part of my spread. For this one, I'm going to minimize the decoration since I only allotted a very small space for the embellishments that I'm going to place. And I'm just going to repeat the same process as I did with the right side of my spread, and just play around with the layout and the placement of each item that I'm using. So I'm just adding in a few more final touches to the layout. I'm using this wooden stamp that I purchased recently from a previous planner event. And I'm also going to use some chipboard stickers with a phrase just to complete the look of my spread. And this is the final output. I hope you enjoyed how I created this one, and if you want to try it out by yourselves, please do so. And if you have any questions, comments, please let me know so I can help you out in some way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!